Welcome, knowledge grabbers. You are into the world of KYC.
Hello, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Here we are with a new topic on end-to-end KYC as requested by everybody and by the poll that we had on LinkedIn. So, here we start with the end-to-end KYC walkthrough. So, let's begin with the topic of end-to-end KYC walkthrough. Now, the first question that comes up to everybody's mind is what are the steps that are involved in end-to-end KYC? So, let's go through the steps first and understand what is KYC and what are the steps. So, basically, KYC is know your customer, and it's a process that allows organizations to check the background of the client. So, background, if I say, then that means the financial background, the industries which they are related to. So, financial background, as in the financial activities, what revenues they are creating, where are they creating it from, what products are they selling in the market, and what risk that the entity has in the bank or maybe to the whole financial system. So the components that hold KYC are quite critical to the AML and CFT. So AML stands for anti-money laundering, and the CFT stands for fighting terrorism, combating and fighting terrorism. So these are the two pillars that KYC is built upon. And once we are done with the KYC, we can easily identify the risk that the client holds if they are getting onboarded in the financial system. So the steps that are involved are mainly four, which is customer identification, customer due diligence, risk assessment, and ongoing monitoring. So we'll learn step by step and in detail to what exactly these four steps are and what are the things that we have to look into the customer identification and so on in all the related steps. So there's a brief overview. If you are able to see the picture here, we can see how we initiate KYC, perform CDD and EDD, and then how the decision is taken. I will be posting these pictures in the description box and give you the link as well, so you also can go and check. It's just a process flow that we have here, so that it explains you in brief to what exactly end-to-end KYC is. We'll start off with the first topic, which is customer identification. It's also known as CIP, which is Customer Identification Program. So what is involved in Customer Identification Program? So the word identification means identifying a customer and verifying the customer's identity. So it's nothing but if the customer is coming to the bank to open an account, a trading account or any kind of account, then we need to identify the customer. Okay, we have a customer, Mr. XYZ. He has his company ABC and he wants to open an account. So we need to identify the customer, and then the verification is done when we collect the documents. So that can be from n number of sources, which can be documents, data, open media sources, anything and everything that we are able to find. And we also take details from the customer itself. So now it involves verifying the customer identity before allowing them to do business with us. Without verifying the customer, we cannot open an account. We need to check if they possess any kind of risk, any kind of money laundering activities that are happening. So we need to check that, and then only we can onboard them. And also we need to see if there are any financials that are in deficit, because if there is a deficit in their annual report, we cannot go ahead and provide our products, because it will again be a risk to the bank in terms of if they are taking a product like loan, they won't be able to give it back to the bank with the interest if there is a deficit. So now the third point here with customer identification program is collection and verification of consumer provided information. Now we cannot rely on what the customer has given us. We need to go back and check what if the customer, if he's saying he's not in a deficit, for an example, but he is or she is, the company is in deficit. So we need to do our own research, and the researches can be done by having the annual report, which is available online, or maybe with any kind of relationship they have with the other banks to check if all the documents and everything is clear. So in a nutshell, if I have to say, it's just that whatever the customer has said, we cannot just go and rely on that, but we need to go ahead and check and verify for our own self if the consumer even exists and what are they doing, what is the business that they are handling in the market. So now, why the SIP and how it has come into picture? So as I said earlier, client identification program, it's CIP, and know your customers, these are related terms, these are interchangeably used, and SIP, you can say, is a legal requirement to the financial institutions, and this was done by not done by, but it was bestowed by the US Patriot Act. And what is US Patriot Act? I'll put it in the description box, but to give you a piece of a brief about it, a piece of what is US Patriot Act, it's an act which was created post the 9/11 attack, which was on the Twin Tower, and where the financial system got hit very badly in the US, and they came up with the USA Patriotic Act. So I'll give you the full form, I'll give you all the details about this act, wherein the SIP came into picture, and then the verification process started off, where we can say KYC got stringent at this point of time. And I'll tell you a very interesting fact, that US Patriot Act was put into you can say it was put into the system, or it was made it was an obligation to all the financial institutions to follow this within like a 20 days or 40 days time, where all the recommendations, all the details were given. So they had to follow that, and we had to get that into picture. So this is a basic thing that we can say about US Patriot Act, but in details, in depth, I'll be putting it in the description box. So we'll move on to the next topic, which is customer due diligence. So the word itself suggests customer due diligence is we need to due diligently check all the given information once we have identified and verified it. Now, what is customer due diligence? It's a series of check. So there are requirements as per the government. So we need to fulfill the requirements, not only the government but the regulators as well, which have some steps, which has some details which we need to collect, identify, verify, and then upon that we have the next topic that will be coming into picture, which is risk assessment. So CDD is a series of check to help you verify the customer's identities and access risk profile. So this will give you a lot of things, like you have to collect the source of fund, the source of wealth, how the business started, when the business started off, where is it registered, so on and so forth, according to the details that are available in the open media, as well as whatever the customer has provided. We go ahead and dig deep down in those details. We also have to check the customer's sanction list, if that person or that entity or the business is any of the sanction list, and if it is a public data or a private data, we need to go ahead and check. So now, what builds the risk profile of the customer? Once we are done with client due diligence or customer due diligence, are as follows. Okay, so collection of the formation documents, as I mentioned, the registry details, which comes like address proof, registered address, the memorandum of association, the article of association. So the existence of the customer, the formation document of the customer or the client or the entity. We can use multiple terms in that. So these are the documents that we take for identification and existence of that particular entity. Next would be collection of ownership. Now ownership, why do we need to know ownership, director information and authorized signers? Because these are called key people, key individuals of that company who have the decision making power. So now if they have a decision making power, that means they can influence the financials, they can influence anything and everything in the company. That is why we need to identify here and then verify their information as well. So now how identification and verification of individual is done, we'll be talking about it in the next topic in a bit of a detail. Then we have the collection of nature of business, country of operation, headquarters, revenue details and all the financial details. So if I need to speak about the nature of business, there are multiple high risk businesses here which a bank has identified, or the regulators, the sanction bodies, or the governing bodies have identified as high risk and sanctioned business. If the entity is doing business with that, then it's a red flag to the bank that it can be quite a risky kind of engagement with this particular entity. Also the same thing with the country of operations and revenue, because if the country of operations would be Syria, for an example, so Syria comes into the sanction list of OFAC, and if they are doing business with Syria, they are generating more than 50% of revenue from Syria, then it could be a red flag again, keeping in mind the sanctions. Now the similar way, high risks are also there, so we need to identify, check if anything is falling into any kind of red flags or any kind of an alerting kind of hit that we get about this entity. So all these documents are collected and verified on a daily basis by the KYC individuals. So as I said, in the next topic we'll speak more in depth about the risk assessment, what is risk and how we can identify and mitigate that risk, how the risk assessment is done, what are the pointers that we need to keep in mind. So here risk assessment is not a separate topic, it is an inbuilt into KYC. This is like a combination of first two topics that we discussed. So the first topic was the client identification program. Once we identify, then we dig deep down into details, we verify, and once we have verified, we then come with accessing the risk. So how the risk is accessed here is mentioned below. Once, as I said, when we collect the key individuals, which is the beneficial owners, the directors, authorized signers, or any entity related to the facing client. So facing client is nothing but the client which has come to us to open a bank account or take our products or have a relationship with the bank. So once we collect all these, we need to have a search done on the below topics, which is a negative news search. Then we have sanction checks, we need PEP checks, we need MLNTF, that is money laundering and terrorist financing related news. We have financial crime news, watch list scan. So if I have to speak about the previous all things, that means if the individual is falling under any such topics which is negative news, sanctions, PEP checks, it's a red flag again. And not only the individual, but all the people related whom we have collected, or the entities which are related to this entity. So maybe you have a company called ABC which is held by a parent called XYZ. So we need to check the XYZ entity as well, and so on so forth. We need to check all these particular checks. Once it is done, if the entity is quite clear, there is no relationship or no news, we can go ahead with our opening the account and accessing the risk, giving a risk profile to the customer, giving what risk it possesses to the bank. If we find anything such from these topics which are mentioned here, then it's a point where the EDD gets involved. So EDD is nothing but enhanced due diligence. It's just a bigger version of customer due diligence. Now, what are the risk parameters? So we all know, or people who are new to KYC, there are three type of risk that we have to apply for a client, which is low, medium, and high. So low would be when I said there is nothing found against the entity or the individuals. We'll keep it as low. If there are any news is found, maybe in the past, there were any financial crimes that were done, or any kind of adverse news that we are able to see, but it was way back and it is mitigated, and the compliance team says it is okay to keep the risk as medium, then we go as medium. And high risk is that we are able to identify some connection with the sanctions, or there is a money laundering happened in the past year, or maybe down the line 5 years, there is a case that is going on, there are fines that have been put up, so on and so forth. So what are the risk parameters is one is identification and verification. If the identification verification is not done clearly, this can be a very big risk to the bank. Then we have IDV for interested parties. Now interested parties are nothing but the individuals that are related. So identification and verification of the individuals. Then there are geographic risks. Now geographic risks, as I mentioned, the individuals may have country of citizenship as something else, residence as something else, which can be a high risk country. Then we have country of taxation, operations, and headquarters based out of any country which is high risk or into sanctions. So we need to have a check on that. Then, as I mentioned, source of wealth, source of fund, etc., which can be going on to the risk parameters, and the risk can be generated from these particular topics mainly. But there are many other things, but we identify risk from these main parameters. We also need to check, as I have put up a point, a product purchase from the bank. So there are products which are high risk products which they have opted from the bank, and because of that also the risk can go on to high. So once all these checks are done and the KYC is updated, the risk is decided. As per that, we will go ahead and do an ongoing monitoring, or you can say a periodic review. So if we have a risk as low, then the periodic review will happen after 3 years. If it is medium, then it is 2 years, and if it is high, then every year there will be a periodic review just to have a check if there is any new progress in the entity's risk profile or anything like that. So that is basically ongoing monitoring, which is the next topic, which is also called as periodic review. So I have given you a brief about what is periodic review in the previous slide. But there are 2 pointers here, which is, one is periodic review, which is like every year, but one is accelerated or event driven review. Now event driven review is nothing but wherein the entity can get into a merger or acquisition or such kind of corporate actions wherein the review is required again, or if they have a trade that is to be settled, which is called ad hoc review, okay, or event driven review. So now periodic review, this is based on customer's risk score. Now if we say the risk score, as I said, low, medium, high, and it determines the next review date, and according to the next review date we go ahead, collect the documents as per the risk, collect the details, identify, verify everything that we did while we were onboarding, and then we have the system closed for the next review. So if the risk has not changed, then it will be again done after the given time as per the risk which is decided. Now if we talk about accelerated review, there is a workflow wherein there are changes in the information of the customer and the behavior. So as I said, corporate actions is one. So what comes into corporate actions? It's merger and acquisitions. There can be litigations and fines that are identified. Then there is liquidation. Liquidation is nothing but the entity has bankrupted and it has gone under liquidation, or it is closing down. Then there are violations. Violations as in there are sanction violations done. The entity is put under a watch list check by the governing bodies or the sanction bodies. We have some negative news that is identified, or there has been a news that has come up in the media. We have bankruptcy, frauds and insider trading, any kind of news that is detected, any geographical change, maybe the entity or individual has changed their country of operations, country of residence, or maybe the registered address for that matter. Any business change, so maybe there is a business that is involved. For an example, the entity was manufacturing shoes. Now they are into pharmaceuticals as well. So pharmaceuticals is considered as a high risk business. So there is a new set of business that is included, which can again come under a red flag. So these are the points that we have to check, cover, and we need to keep a hawk eye on these details so that we are on point with the customer due diligence or the KYC of the customer, and we can prevent the frauds that are happening. We can detect it on a very early stage and save ourselves and the bank to get into any kind of fuzzy things that can affect their reputation and goodwill. Everybody for having this patience and attention to this topic. I hope you were able to identify, verify, and you will be able to in future and understood clearly in brief what end-to-end KYC is. Hopefully this helps you in your future to understand the whole KYC process. And if you have any questions, any doubts, you can anytime put it in the comment box and let me know. I'll try my best to answer that. And if you have any new suggestions that you want to put in for the topic, do let me know in the comment box. I will be posting all the details in the description box for you for your better understanding. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.